Which is I'm only
Okay,
debating.
we're in Discord.gg/Enten. Today we're having C versus APERSON. The topic is Demon Slayer Inverse Mitsuri versus Shinobu. C has Mitsuri, APERSON has Shinobu. Let's get this going, guys.
This guy like 12. Like that's fine. That's fine. What he's on the affirmative. So I'm ready, man. I'm always
It
prepared.
don't matter, bro. You could go first. I can go first. It don't matter.
Okay, you go first then. No problem.
Okay, I'm just gonna take it to be the case that if it's going to be the case that Shinobu can scale to Doma, and I think Doma skills above Mitsuri, then I think that obviously entails that Shinobu skills over Mitsuri.
We can talk about whether Doma skills above or skills above Shinobi first, I suppose. I think the first thing you mentioned, so yeah.
I don't think it matters whether or not Doma skills above Shinobu. It just has to be the case that number one, Shinobu shows any sort of relativity to Doma, and number two, Mitsuri is weaker than Doma.
Wait, you agree that if Doma skills above Shinobi, then Doma's not relative to Shinobi, right?
That's not what I said, bro. Okay.
Wait, but
So
do you agree that if Doma skills above Shinobi, then they're not relative? You agree with that?
if bro,
Okay,
do you
because
think somebody gets
take the
bro?
view the
Just
view
to be
that
clear,
Doma is above Shinobi.
just to be clear, this point is pretty trivial, right? Because all that has to be fulfilled is that Doma and Shinobu are relative, right?
Yeah,
Which
but I
means that
said
if
if
it were to be the
Doma's
case
above
that
Shinobi, then they're not relative,
oh my
right?
god,
At least under the way I
what do you
understand
think
it.
relative means, bro? You can go ahead and define relative real quick before we continue.
Well, I take relativity, at least the way I use it, to that if two people are relative, then there's no clear victor, there's no one that's clearly above the other. And so if somebody's clearly above the other person, which is what I'm saying in the case of Doma, then they're just not relative. Now, if you have some other understanding of relativity, that's fine. Basically,
Okay,
what I'm
then
doing is I'm
obviously I can
challenging
just
the view.
clarify, bro. When I say relative, bro, I'm just describing, bro. When I describe two characters as relative, I'm just saying
Uh-huh.
that they're going to be close in strength to the point where they can affect each other, right?
Okay, well, can you demonstrate Shinobi being close in strength to the ability to affect Doma? It's like I'm not sure. Like his definition of relativity is pretty vague. I feel like we're gonna run into some issues later regarding vagueness and whether under this definition of relativity you can demonstrate that Mitsuri is not also relative to Doma. So I have some like qualms with that definition of relativity.
Okay, just to
And
be
for
clear, when I
example,
say they're relative, I mean in all relevant aspects, right? So I think I'm mainly speaking in terms of speed. So do you want me to prove that Shinobu is at least on par with Doma in speed?
well, when you say on par with Doma and speed, what does that mean? Because
I
initially you
mean, their
said
speeds
that.
are
Hold
comparable,
on,
bro.
just
Like let's
listen.
not like troll.
Initially, just stop. Initially, you said that by relativity you mean they are close in
Bro, I
strength
don't I
to the
don't know why
point
I'm
where.
stopping, bro. I think I'm
Okay,
pretty clear.
can we have some moderation? I'm not gonna talk to this guy who just talks over me.
If we're gonna moderate, let's moderate you because you're asking like pretty trivial questions, bro. I think I'm
No,
pretty clear.
it's not a trivial question. Like the point is that you're saying that by relativity you mean close in strength to the point where they can affect one another. But then when you bring in speed, what does it mean to affect one another in terms of speed? Like keep
Okay,
up with one
obviously
another?
I'm
Is that
pretty
what you
sure I
mean?
just clarified. Oh, bro, we could conclude.
You haven't given an argument. Why would you
What
conclude?
the fuck, bro? Like, bro, obviously, when I say relative in terms of speed, obviously, I'm
Uh-huh.
saying that their speeds are going to be comparable in a way that there's going to be some sort of similarity in which they can move, right? So, for example, like if we were to say that like character A can run at 10 miles per hour, when I say character B is relative in terms of speed, I'm saying that character B can run at some level of like 10 miles per hour. Like, for example, they can possibly run like 9 miles per hour or possibly 11 miles per hour, but it's just somewhere close to the point where the gap isn't significant, but it's just going to be distinct, bro. So obviously, when I say that,
Yeah. Show me.
yo, go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, so basically, I just got the relevant bit down, which is relative in terms of speed means that speeds are comparable. So can you like demonstrate that Shinobi's speed is comparable to Doma's speed?
Okay, we literally could have just like, bro. Anyways,
I just have to get clear what you meant.
I think I was pretty clear, which is why I was low key getting a bit tilted, but we can move on.
Yeah, we can move on to the evidence of the claim that you made initially. No problem. That is not envy, bro. What the heck? This is Rishan's go. Chill with posting. Huh? Like, bro, the definition's horrible, and I don't need to track the rest because I'm the king. So let me just actually spawn in chat. The definition is horrible. I don't need to track the rest because I am king. Okay. Also, I just want to get clear on something. Are you using like there's many instances I can think of. We can just streamline this debate. Are you using the instance where she uses the dancer, this like what's it, dragonfly or something? Where she does the bridge? Is that the instance you're gonna use? I can send a GIF of it if you
It's
want.
gonna be a set of panels, but I think wait, you said Dance of the Dragonfly?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. She like
I'm not
sunders the bridge.
I don't really know it by name, but I'm pretty sure like that should be one of them. But it's just going to be a series of panels in which Shinobu is just showcasing speed that is at least on par or greater than Doma's.
Oh, that's not the reductio I was thinking about using, Everest, man. Look, there's obviously going to be a reductio to this view, but that's definitely not going to be the reductio, right? Uh, okay. There are reductios though, for sure, man. And we're gonna get to those soon.
I'll provide more.
Oh, is this the speed boost you're talking about?
Okay, just to be clear, I said, bro, just to be clear, I said that it's going to be either that one Shinobu is on par with Doma in speed, or it's going to
Uh-huh.
be greater. So it's just anything that fulfills those. So it doesn't specifically have to be a blitz. I don't see why that has to be the case.
No, I wasn't even talking about anything you've sent because just because you haven't sent anything yet. I was referring to the scan that Murky sent in chat.
Yeah, that's bro. I'm murky, buddy.
Wait, are you not a person? Who's a person?
Bro, number one. Okay, my previous name was APERSON, but if you look at my profile, like the main name is APERSON. That's just
Oh,
like
okay. So you're Murky. Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so wait, there's multiple. Okay. Da, 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 da. So wait, what's the comparability here? Is it that she's able to land a hit on him?
yeah, it's just going to be the case that in multiple instances, Shinobu's going to be able to either react or just completely outspeed Doma in certain situations. And I think that just gives credence to my proposition that
Yeah,
Shinobu
I
is at
think.
least relative or above Doma in speed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things to mention here. I think there's a disposition Doma has to toy around with the people he fights. I think we sort of see that here,
I don't
right?
think
I
we
don't
see
really
that
think.
anywhere. At least not against like anybody he fights. Well, I'll say that I think that holds true against what's her name? Kanao and Inosuke, but I don't see why that holds true here.
Well, it seems like the reason why he toys around with Kanao and Inosuke is because he has this sort of interest in them, right? Like he finds them interesting.
I disagree.
Right? Okay, so why do you think? Because I might just agree with the reason you give for why he holds back against them.
I think he holds back against Kanao because he sees them as weaker.
But he says that Kano is more talented than Shinobu after Kano is able to dodge the ice. So
I don't see why I
presumably,
don't see why talented entails like combative ability.
well, he says it right after she does a combatively impressive motion, right? She's able to dodge the ice, which Shinobu couldn't dodge. So it seems as if it has some sort of relation to combative
Yeah, that doesn't
ability.
answer the question. When I say competitive ability, like I'm saying, I'm saying in all relevant aspects, at least in terms of the context in which we're having this debate. So, like for example, speed. I said speed was going to be my main issue.
Wait, I don't really understand what's being said. Look, so do you agree or disagree that Kanao was able to dodge the ice and Shinobu's not? Do you agree with
Yeah,
this?
I'm saying when Doma describes Kanao as talented, I'm saying that like you could probably make the argument that it's in terms of like IQ and things of that nature, but I don't think it entails like speed and things of that nature or
No, it,
physicals.
it doesn't. It doesn't matter because she's still able to evade something Shinobu couldn't. Right? Do you grant
Okay,
this?
then okay, if you're not denying what I just said, then I'll just grant that and we can move on.
Okay, wait, no, it's not about moving on. I'll just remind you of the point that you're putting into contention. So the whole thing we're talking about right now is whether Doma has a disposition to hold back against opponents. I'm taking the affirmative. I said I think he's holding back here against Shinobu. And then we brought up the Inosuke and Kanao instance, and I asked you, why do you think he's holding back against these? You said he's holding back against these people because he perceives them as weaker. I was like, okay, but he says that Kanao's more talented than Shinobu after she does something that's impressive combatively, which implies that she's more talented in the sense of combat, as in she's a more talented fighter than Shinobu. And then you bring up how actually the only thing you're talking about is it being relevant in terms of speed. I don't really care what the reason is. It could be because she has higher IQ, it could be because she has better fighting sense, it could be because she's tall, has better stats. I don't really care what the reason is. So long as the fact that he's analyzing here relates to combat and it's talking about her being more combatively able, it still supports my point about why it will be more likely that he'd hold back against Shinobu, even given
And
the
more
reason you're giving.
competitively able. Okay, I'm bro. What I'm questioning is whether or not talented entails able because there's a difference
Bro, I already gave the reason for that. Talented entails able, at least not entails, but it's more likely it's referring to combatively able in this context because it's made after she does something that's impressive combatively. She says, "Oh, you're more talented than the Harsher I just fought because he's able to do something in combat the other Harsher could not do." How is that not related to combat? It's like really ratty, really like weird sort of point to argue here.
Okay, I was doing something. Okay, so basically what I was saying that um I was literally putting into question whether or not when he describes Kanao as talented, we're obviously going to agree that there's going to be a distinction between what is talent and what is ability, right? Like for example, someone could be talented, but talent just implies that there's some sort of potential for them to gain ability, right? So I'm a bit confused how we're saying that talented entails that Kanao is going to be at even like comparable.
Yeah, I already
And
explained
well,
it.
I
I'll do
literally
it
said
one
I wasn't
more.
listening because I got interrupted, bro.
Yeah, I already explained it. I already explained it. I'll explain it one more time because I'm good faith. The reason why I think talent here refers to combative ability is because the statement is made after she's able to do something that Shinobi's not able of doing in combat. So I'll give you the context. The context
Disagree.
is that stop. The context is that Shinobu gets tagged by the ice. She breathes in the ice that starts to freeze her lungs and stops her from fighting at her full potential. Blah blah blah. Whatever. And Kanao's able to evade that. Okay, and then Doma says right after she evades it, "Oh, she's more talented than the Harsher I just fought." Now, what is he basing the statement on? He's basing the statement of her being able to do something in combat that Shinobi's not able to do, i.e., respond to the ice in time, be able to move out of the way. For whatever it is, whatever allows her to do that, irrelevant. There is this feature that Kanao has in her combative arsenal that Shinobi does not. That means Doma says, "Oh yeah, she's more talented." So obviously that's combat relevant. Obviously it's relevant to combat because it allows her to do something in combat that's advantageous to her and gives her a high likelihood of winning the fight over Shinobi does, right? So that's obviously relevant to combat. And if that's true, then when you give the reason for him holding back being that he perceives him as weaker, and so he wouldn't hold back against Shinobi because he doesn't think Shinobi's weaker, this is a direct counterexample because he thinks that Kanao's more talented in combat than Shinobi is. And so he would not perceive Kanao as weaker than Shinobi. Quite opposite, really, right? Because he was stronger than Shinobi, given the evidence.
Yeah,
I think it's a
bro,
pretty
I
basic
never
point.
I never said okay, I never said that in which what Doma is in reference to when he calls Kanao as talented. I never said that wasn't in reference to combat. But just to be clear, when we're saying that a character is stronger or weaker, or wait, just yeah, when we're saying a character is stronger or weaker, I'm saying that in terms of physicals, he's going to be relevant, or Shinobu is going to be relative to Doma. But just to be clear, when Kanao says, or when Doma says Kanao is talented, I don't think that necessarily entails that her physicals, or necessary, yeah, that her physicals are going to be relative towards Doma to the point where like he wouldn't perceive her as weaker. Like I don't see.
There's something more pressing about this, which is the whole stronger here means that their physicals are relative to Doma, and this is like goes against Shinobi's whole narrative as a Hashira, the whole entire thing. Because the whole narrative in this fight with Shinobu is that her physicals are shit. The only thing that Shinobu has that stands out in the Hashira
I
is her
disagree, bro.
speed. Wait, hold on, just stop. The only thing Shinobu has that stands out in terms of the Hashira is her leg strength, particularly when she's performing thrusting attacks. A whole point about this Shinobi fight is that her upper body is really weak. She can't behead demons. She has a weak constitution, so she bleeds out easier when she's fighting against demons, etc., etc. She's literally the physically weakest Hashira stated, right? There's only one feature. She has one gimmick, which is her leg strength, and that's what allows her to land those hits on Doma. They were talking about surprise him with her speed, that sort of thing. That's it. That's all she has. So when you say physical relativity is what he's referring to when it talks about strength, I hope you'd agree that in terms of upper body strength, Kanayo and pretty much every other person in the series as a demon slayer that's relevant is stronger than Shinobu, right? So in terms of upper body strength, she'd probably be stronger. And then in terms of combative skill, she'd probably be stronger as well because she's able to evade the ice and like read the attack before and Shinobu couldn't do so, right? So the talent's a talented thing. So it would seem as if, right, there are more ways in which Kanao is above Shinobu than Shinobu is above Kanao in this fight, presumably, right?
What? Okay, bro, just to be clear, I think that's a bit confused when you say that like Shinobu, her only gimmick is her leg strength and her speed, but not necessarily her physicals. When I'm pretty sure one entails the other. But anyways, if we're, I don't even think necessarily when Doma says Kanao is talented, like I don't even think she's talented in any way that relevant to saying that Kanao is like at least on par or like any sort of relative to Shinobu, because when he literally describes her being skillful, he literally explains why in the panels prior, and saying that it's because of the prior knowledge Shinobu gives her. He was able to analyze that and use that information in order to avoid like her said I mean his said ice. So therefore, like I don't think if like number one, I don't think if Kanao was put like in the same situation as Shinobu, that it would be the case that Kanao would be able to dodge it. And number two, I think like there's multiple panels like within the Kanao fight that like give like precedence to this, like as to why Kanao wouldn't necessarily be like any sort of relative to Shinobu. Like for example, like Doma uses the clones, the ice clones against Kanao, which are just verbatim stated to be weaker, like just in general, like in general weaker to Doma. So therefore, like I don't see why if it were to be the case that um Doma didn't see Kanao as weaker than himself, I don't see why he would use said things that are claimed to be weaker than him, like that he states are weaker than himself.
Yeah, so 3 points I'm going to respond to, and then we might be able to head to conclusions. To be honest, first thing he says like Kano wouldn't be able to do it in Shinobi situation. So then why would Doma make the comparison, right? Like the statement is not, "Hey, Kano is talented." The statement is, "Kano might be more talented faster, I just thought." That's the statement, I'm pretty sure. It wouldn't make any sense to make this comparison if he's not saying that she performs better against him or against this particular attack than Shinobu does. So when you say, oh, given the context, the prior context is that Shinobu gives her intel, she's able to act on the intel, blah, 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 that's fine. Let's say that is the prior context, even I'm not really sure. Let's say that is the prior context. That's okay. That statement that Doma gives therefore implies that even though Shinobu, even if Shinobu had this intel beforehand, he's not sure if she'd have the ability to act on the intel in the way that Kanao does in the fight. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, you said high speed entails physicality. Physicality is a cluster concept. It's not just merely how fast you are, but it's how fast you are, how strong you are, how much stamina you have, how much constitution you have, as in like your resistance to being damaged, that sort of thing, like how durable you are, your healing factor. All of these things I mentioned. Like for example, in the fight with Kokushiba, Murichiro mentions that because he has a weaker constitution than Tengen or Kyome, he will bleed out quicker than them. That's a matter of physicality. Shinobi mentions in this fight with Doma that she can't behead Doma because she has weak upper body strength. That's a matter of physicality also. So we're talking about physicality, we can't just only look at speed. It wouldn't make sense to say because Shinobi's faster, Doma recognizes her as more physically adept than the Kano, mainly because, one, I don't even grant she's faster than Kano, and two, even if I do grant she's faster than Kano, that wouldn't mean she has a greater physicality overall than Kano, or multiple aspects at play here. I already gave reasons for why Kano probably has greater upper body strength, greater physical ability in terms of her ability to actually fight and apply her stats that she's using, given Doma's statement. We talk about like a lot of other things as well, like her vermilion eye. So she has the vermilion eyes as well. That increases her visual acuity. That obviously plays a role in her physicality, her physical ability, her perception, that sort of thing. So there's many things to say here. And then the third thing is that the ice clones are stated to be weaker than Doma. I don't think that's true. From what I recall, the ice clones are stated to be equal to Doma, so they have the same strength as him. Not that they're weaker than him. I think the reason why they're so fearsome is that he can create basically many different versions of him that are just as strong. That's my recollection of the statement. If you have a disagreement with that, you could send a statement in. We could just see which one is worse or which one's better or whatever. But I'm pretty fine with concluding right now. I think I really substantiated all the points I had to make at the start of the
Yeah, so while I'm pulling up this scan, I never bro, I never said that it would to be the case that like we're only taking speed or like leg strength into account when we're like talking about physicals. All I said that is pretty confused to say that like Shinobu has weak physicals while also describing physical aspects of herself that clearly excel, which is why I literally just said that was confused. Like I never posited that like we're going to
They
exclude it.
repeat that point.
Yeah, so bro, I never said that we're going to be excluding like any other sort of factors when we're talking about physicality. All I said that it was pretty confusing language when you say that her leg strength and her speed weren't like would not be the only ones taken into account when we're talking about physicals. Like I never said that. I just said that like you can't really say that it's bad physicals and then describe physicals that excel. I'm just saying that's contradictory. But anyways, I'll pull up this scan where it says that the clones are weaker than himself, and like he literally pulls it out because he was playing with them prior. Yeah, so he just verbatim like implies that they're below him. And like we see prior that both Inosuke and Kana are like struggling against this clone.
Yo, is it my turn to respond or
You respond when asked.
it's like no way, bro. This nigga's not real, bro. Those who read, man, will lie. Yo,
I'm trying to find the statement where Doma says he can't play around anymore.
yo, play around against two Shinobi? He doesn't say this, bro.
I'm oh, it's right here. And there might be another statement, but I think I'll leave it at here. So essentially, he says that he doesn't have time to play around with them anymore. I think that implies like the toying disposition you were describing. And then you asked me to provide evidence as to why the clones were like below Doma. He verbatim like implies that they're below himself, and we literally see Kanao and Inosuke together like struggling against one clone.
Okay, is it my turn?
But yeah, go ahead.
Sweet. So, well, actually, another point that I forgot to write down, but we'll just start here. So, the first thing you said is that I can't say she has bad physicals, then describe physicals that excel. 100% I can. Like, just look at like basketball players. Maybe you're more familiar with that. If like I say, I don't know, there's like a bad basketball player, but he has like really good shooting. Like, yeah, being a good shooter is a part of being a good basketball player, 100%. But like, you can have bad handles, you could have bad, game sense, bad positioning, bad communication, bad defense, whatever, right? There's like many different aspects beyond just shooting. It's like you saying, oh, she has like this, like, strong leg strength and she's quick or whatever. Sure, that might be true. But that doesn't mean that she has greater physicals than Kano and her counterparts. Like, that doesn't mean that at all. Because physicals is a broader concept than just how strong your legs are, how quickly you can move. It also encompasses the other things I mentioned, which I'm not going to repeat. And then what else, man? You also mentioned how the clones there are weaker than Doma was, and I said I don't recall that being stated. I recall them being around like equal. Okay, reading the statement verbatim, it says this one can use techniques almost as powerful as mine. So let's just use the language you introduced before into the debate, which was relativity. You define relativity roughly as being comparable, being close together, that sort of thing. It's like even under your definition, it seems like the clone that he summons is relative to Doma. So it's not surprising that Kanayo and Inosuke struggle against someone that's relative to Doma at all. I think Shinobi would also struggle against somebody that's relative to Doma because Shinobi is relative to Doma. So Shinobi would similarly struggle. There's no like anti-feat here for Kanao and Inosuke struggling against the clone that's relative to Doma at all. Right, so I don't know where the anti-feat would come from. And then what else? Maybe you might say in response to that it's like a 2v1 or something. Uh, but I think 2v1s are a bit questionable, like whether 2v1s mean that you can perform better or not. Like there are certain cases where it being a 2v1 doesn't necessarily mean you perform better. Like just take Kokushiba versus Morichiro, Gyome, Sanemi, those people. Like Kokushiba's AoE attacks are just so grand that like it's not really that much of an advantage to be fighting with 3-on-1. Right, like the amount of like AoE he has just means that he can like sufficiently handle three people at once. We see that Doma deals with them with AoE attacks more often. Like very rarely does he go into hand-to-hand combat, which is usually when you'd expect the sort of 3v1 thing or 2v1 thing to really play an effect. And then why he holds back, you just have to investigate here. He said, if I could, I'd play with you like this until I got tired of it, right? So then there's some sort of reason for why he cannot play with them like this. And what is that reason? From what I recall from reading Demon Slayer a couple years ago, I
Yes,
think it's because
I
I
can
think
just
it's
explain
because
for you, bro, because I have the panel. It's
yeah, I think the reason is because he has to go. I think the reason is because he has to go to Mu. I think the reason is because he has to go to Musa, right? Presumably that's
yeah,
the reason.
after learning Akaza died, so he just says, "Oh, I have to leave. I can't play with you anymore."
Yeah. When does he learn Akaza dies?
I just said like about the time he drops the clones. That's why he left.
I mean, we can see that. Yeah, man's ready to conclude, man. Wait, it's time, midnight?
Yo, C, don't talk without my permission, bro. Stop.
I'm gonna leave the server after this, man. Prague is so annoying, wallahi, bro. This guy just keeps talking to me. I don't know who he is, man.
You're part of the British syndicate, bro. You were begging me to debate earlier. Please stop.
You're part of the British syndicate, bro. You're begging me to debate earlier, bro. Please stop, bro. It's because Midnight had Kai as his net. Yo, can someone shut this guy up?
Yes.
Okay, look, what I was gonna say is
All
Midnight
right,
had
bitch
Kai as his
ass
name
nigga. He's a
before, bro.
bitch.
Also, in response to the other points, I think the relativity point is like pretty trivial because again, like number one, like all that had to be fulfilled was that the clones are weaker than Doma. So if it's going to be the case that if the clones are weaker than Doma and he sees them as sufficient to deal with both Kanao and Inosuke, it's just going to be the case that like I think it's pretty implied that Doma sees them as weaker than himself, which was my entire claim.
That's not what I'm contesting. But also, this doesn't necessarily mean that he's only holding back because he didn't like he's like okay. It says Lord Arkansas fell in battle and we're out of time. Like he's giving two reasons. He's saying like one reason why I have to go is because Lord Arkansas fell in battle. Another reason why I have to go is because we're out of time. Like perhaps if Lord Arkansas was still alive,
They could be in conjunction with each other. That's fine, bro.
yeah, but so presumably that it's not just the case he's holding back because Lord Arcus is alive, right? Or it's not just the case that he stops holding back. Well, I don't even know what the point of this guy is meant to prove.
I
Do you
never
think he
said he
stops holding
stopped
back?
holding back. Okay, I never said
Okay,
he
so he's
stopped
still
holding back.
holding back here.
Yeah, that's kind of the bro. That's kind of the point. Like I'm trying to justify like the disposition that you described that like Doma likes to toy around, which like kind of entails that he's holding back against his opponent. I'm trying to say that that applies to Kanao and Inosuke, but that doesn't apply to Shinobu, right? So like I don't see what you're
That's
questioning here. Like
this
it could be
reason.
the case that they're in conjunction with each other, like
Or
Akaza dying and them running out of time for like whatever reason. Like I don't see the issue. Like I don't see how that.
it's like there's like a wave of illiteracy. Like I don't understand. So like you read this panel where it says Lord Arkaza fell in battle when we're out of time, right? And you think this doesn't apply to Shinobu, but when he's fighting Shinobu, Lord Arkaza is alive and he has as much time, he has more time than he does now, because time obviously decreases as you go on. So he has more time against Shinobu to fuck around. And Lord Arkaza is also still alive. So if the reasons as to why he stops toying around with them, as said in the previous
Okay,
panel, when he says
like
I
this
can
is
take.
just.
Hold on, wait, hold
Why
on.
would I hold
Wait,
on, bro? This is a major tracking issue. I never said that. This
wait. Don't do the flipping over stuff, bro.
bro. I never said Doma stops holding back here.
No,
I
I'm
never said
arguing
that.
he does. This is what I'm saying. I'm arguing he don't need to listen, pay attention. I'm not saying this is what he said. I think this is what I'm
Okay,
saying. I'm
bro.
saying.
Anyways,
I'm
you could
saying.
go ahead. You could go ahead, even though you said that I said that, but we could go ahead.
Yeah. Anyways, so look, given the scan, it says Lord Arkaza fell in battle we're out of time, and then afterwards he goes ahead and says something like, "If I could, I'd play with you like this until I got tired of it or something." So it seems the reason why he cannot play with them anymore is because Lord Arkaza fell in battle and he's out of time. So he would continue to play with them if this wasn't true, right? Presumably, okay. And I'm saying this would also apply to Shinobu because against Shinobu he has more time than he does against Kano and Inosuke, and Lord Arkaza is still alive. So those reasons still survive. So the only thing we have to discuss is whether he perceives Shinobu as being weaker than himself, right? Or rather, we can even talk about it in terms of whether he perceives Shinobu as being weaker than Kanao, right? And I already gave reason to believe that he does. And you talking about the clone stuff is irrelevant because he perceives the clone as being relative to him. So it's not surprising that he might think somebody relative to him can handle or hold at bay Inosuke and Kana. In the same way that you wouldn't think it's surprising if somebody relative to Doma could fight comparably with Shinobu, because you literally said at the beginning that Shinobu is only relative to Doma. Keep in mind, that's consistent under your
That's a
view.
bare minimum. Like that's
Hold on. That's consistent
bro.
under your view with Shinobu being weaker than Doma. Agree?
What consistent
You,
with my Shinobu being weaker than Doma? I disagree with that. I think
Wait, so
Shinobu feels
this is the importance. At the beginning of the debate, when we were clarifying definitions, you were saying, "Oh, this is so trivial," but now we're going full circle because initially I asked you, "Do you agree that if Shinobu's above Doma, then they're not relative?" You said
yeah,
no. So
bro. I called it
clearly,
trivial, bro. I called it trivial because all I said was that because Doma is going to scale above Mitsuri, all Shinobu has to do is scale relative to Doma. Therefore, like thereby saying that
okay,
Shinobu's over Mitsuri.
Shinobu's
I said,
relative to Doma. Does that mean Shinobu? So
hold
can
on,
Shinobu be weaker than
hold on,
Doma
bro.
or no?
Hold on, bro. All the reason why I said it was trivial was because I opened my argument by saying that Doma is above Mitsuri, right? So therefore, all Shinobu has to do is scale relative to Doma. It doesn't matter if she scales like above or like slightly below. It doesn't matter because that would
Brother.
still entail Shinobu being above Mitsuri if
So,
it's the case that Doma is above Mitsuri.
so wait, is it consistent with your scaling chain that Shinobi's weaker than Doma, but relative? Yes or no?
Would it be consistent? I think it would be less. I don't see why that's. I don't see why that's like pretty relevant.
It's relevant because I'm arguing that Doma probably perceives Shinobi as being weaker than him,
Okay. I think this
right?
stems back to the first point. Why does the reasons disappearing, like Akaza and him running out of time, why does that entail him like not trying? I mean, starting to try anymore? Because like I don't see why that necessarily entails that. Like
Not
we
the claim.
clearly
I never once said entails once. I never once said necessarily as once as well. What
okay,
I said was that
did you not
it
use it
seems
as
to be
justification to say that Doma is trying?
yeah. So the reason why I said Doma's holding back. Okay, let's just clarify everything. So you said Doma's holding back against Kano and Inosuke because he perceives them as being weaker than himself. That
Yeah, and he
implies that
makes
if you
certain
think,
statements.
hold on.
I'm
That
just
implies.
clarifying my view because you're repeating my
Stop. You said that a reason why Doma is holding back against Inosuke and Kano is because he perceives them as being weaker than himself. Yes or no? Just yes or no.
yes via certain statements and actions.
Okay, via whatever statements you haven't sent those yet, that's fine. Via certain statements, actually, fine. Okay, cool. And then that implies that if you do not think Doma's holding back against Shinobu, that implies that that Doma does not perceive Shinobu as being weaker than himself. Yes or no?
Yeah, that would entail Doma not seeing Shinobu as weaker, at least not
Okay,
significant.
perfect. No, it's not about significantly, right? It's not about significantly at all. Because keep in mind, the previous statement was not Doma perceives Inosuke and Kano as being significantly weaker than him. It was just that they're weaker than him. He perceives them as being weaker. It's not about whether it's significant or not. Just to be clear,
Okay,
right?
we could just make the clarification right now. Like I think he sees Kanao and Inosuke as relevantly weaker than himself, and he doesn't see Shinobu in the same way.
Okay, and then what was the reason you gave for that?
Bro, I think the reasoning is just going to be that he treats Kanao and Inosuke differently, and he makes certain statements that he doesn't make about Shinobu. Like for example, he verbatim states that, or he verbatim implies that he was playing around with them prior. He never says that about Shinobu. Um, he provides the clones which he states are below himself.
Wait, who would he say it to? Who would he say? Who would he say that he's playing? Like, okay, he says it to them. He says to Kano and Inosuke, "Sorry, I can't play around with you anymore, because whatever arcs just got packed off. So I'm gonna send these clones at you, and I'm gonna go do what I have to do." Right? That's what he says to them. Who would he say? Yeah, Shinobi, sorry, I was holding. She's dead. She dies. She gets eaten.
Okay,
Right?
obviously it's not going to be after Shinobu dies. It's going to be like at some point within the fight, bro.
No, but why
Like
would he have to say,
that's entailed
by the way,
within.
I'm playing around? Like these are two different statements. It's not he's not him saying I have to stop playing around anymore. You're saying that he should tell Shinobu or mention to Shinobu that he's holding back. But he doesn't say that to Kano and Inosuke until after he has to stop holding back.
Yeah, obviously I'm not saying that the statement is going to be made within the same context. I said he didn't make any sort of statement that is like even comparable to what he said against Kanao and Inosuke.
I
Like
don't understand. Look,
it,
the
like
statement that's
statements that implies he's like playing around.
bro. Yo, what the heck? Can someone mute not serves? Like the statement that implies he's holding back against Kano and Inosuke is only made because he has to stop holding back to go support Akaza and whatever else, right? He says,
Okay,
"Sorry, can't
that
play
not
with you anymore."
entail, bro? Is that not in question right now? Does that not
Okay,
entail
wait,
that
wait.
he stops
So
holding
does
back
play? Wait,
afterwards?
this
I would
is
like
so.
to
This you're not even tracking the terms of what you're saying. So when he says, "I can't play with you anymore," does that mean he's gonna stop holding back or not?
not necessarily, no.
Okay, so then him playing with them does not mean he's holding back. Then yes or no,
What? Bro, I'm
bro?
saying that him
This,
saying that he cannot play around with them anymore doesn't imply that afterwards he's going to start like trying against them. Because it can be like other conclusions, right? Like for example, like what he
bro,
does
this
in the
guy's
fight,
bro.
he defers the responsibility onto something else, which in this
So
case would be clones that he
is
states are bigger than
so
himself, bro.
so that statement cannot show that Doma is holding back because initially I thought what you were
How
arguing, which
does
is the
that
smarter
follow,
argument.
bro? Boom,
Bro,
bro.
stop talking over me, bro. initially I thought what you were arguing was he says that he's playing around with them and he has to stop. And playing around usually means that you're holding back. So that's why he's holding back. If that's not what you're saying, then what's the evidence for him holding back against these people apart from that statement? Because that doesn't prove anything.
Bro, what? I'm saying that if you're playing around with someone, that entails holding back. But just
Okay,
to
so
be
then
clear,
if he says, bro, listen, you just conceded. If he says, I can't play around with you anymore, that means he's not holding back.
what? I'm saying that playing around entails that you're holding back. I'm saying that when he says I can't play around with you anymore, obviously that implies that he has to be fighting he has to fight them in order to play around, like quote unquote play around with them, correct?
Wait, I'm writing on what you're saying. Just make your point, bro. It's ridiculous. We're gonna conclude.
Bro. Okay, so when he says playing around, that obviously entails that he has to fight with them, right? So when he says I don't have time to play around with you anymore, that entails that he's not going to be fighting with them anymore. That doesn't entail that like he's going to start trying now, which is why I said that it doesn't have to be the case that after he makes the statement he has to like somehow start going 100%. It could just be the case that he defers the responsibility of fighting them onto something else, which in this case would be his clones that he states are weaker than himself.
Brother.
And he like verbatim states it to be like sufficient to unalive, or use the TikTok language. He states it to be sufficient enough to kill them. And if he thinks that is sufficient enough for something weaker than himself to kill Kanao and Inosuke, that would obviously entail that he sees them as weaker than himself, which was like
Wait,
the whole point of the
yeah,
debate.
let's just write this down. So playing around entails holding back. So if you're not playing around, then you're not holding back, right? So that's what that entails. If you're not holding back, you're not playing around with. Okay. He says I can't play around with you anymore. So that's what that means. To play around means you're holding back. So if you're not playing around, you're not holding back. That's what I'm saying.
Right, nigga.
Now,
Damn.
what you're saying,
And I
hold on,
already clarified, bro.
what you're saying is let me just finish. What you're saying in response is something like, oh, to play around you have to fight them. So he's saying like I don't have the time to fight you anymore. I'm gonna leave you with this clone or whatever. And that's support for the view that he perceives them as being weaker or something. Now, just to be clear, him perceiving them as being weaker than himself is irrelevant to the scaling chain you presented. But that's besides the point. The main point is that if you're in a fight with somebody, I don't know if you've ever been in a fight like IRL, it's not just that if you decide not to fight with them anymore, you just turn around and walk away. That's how it works. If you're fighting somebody, you turn around and walk away. They still want to fight you. They will still throw a swing at you. They will still connect with you if you're not defending yourself. So Doma still has to hold them back in a way he starts to engage with them in order to go do what he needs to do. Right? As an analogy, it's almost like if I'm fighting against somebody and now I want to run away, I still need to stop them from pursuing me. Right? So that's what Doma's doing. He needs to stop them from pursuing him. Now, he chooses to use a clone that can use techniques almost as powerful as he can. Right? Which implies that Kanayo and Inosuke, so if he's trying to stop them from coming to play with him, whatever, and he's not holding back in order to do so, like he's serious now. He's not playing around with them. He's not prolonging the fight for whatever to have fun. He does not want to have this fight anymore. He wants to go do something else. So this clone is designed in such a way as to achieve this purpose. It will make no sense for him to hold back the strength of this clone. So yes, he still is holding back in terms of using the strongest clone for the job. But if he's not using the strongest clone for the job, why would he not be using the strongest clone for the job? That would just be him tantamount to him being holding back for no reason, which is not what he wants to do. He literally says the opposite, given your own reduction of the term playing around. I think we can just conclude.
Can you repeat your first point so I can write it down, bro? Because this is
Yeah. So playing around, you told me playing around entails holding back. So when Doma says, oh, I'm playing around with these people, whatever, he's holding back. That's what that means, right? He's holding back against them in the fight. Doma then goes on to say, I can't play around with you guys anymore for so and so reasons. And then summons a clone. You think because this clone is weaker than Doma is, very slightly, because it says almost as powerful, so very slightly weaker, whatever, you think that means that he perceives them as weaker. I then clarified that this is irrelevant to the scaling chain you presented. Doma can perceive Inosuke and Kano as being weaker. He could also perceive Shinobi as being weaker, and he can perceive them as being relative to one another. So it does not confirm what you're saying. But that's besides the point.
what?
I then go on to say, yeah, it does not confirm what you're saying. I then go on to say that, what's it called? The point about playing around makes no sense. He says he's not going to play around, and so he needs to go do something else, right? He needs to go support Muzan because Arxa just died or whatever. There's a dire situation at hand. So he cannot continue to fight these people. So Doma's intention here is to be serious and not fight the people that are pursuing him anymore. I.e., he wants to stop Inosuke and Kano from pursuing him. So what does he do? He summons a clone. Now we have to ask, is this clone full power? Like, is this Doma's strongest clone? Is this his strongest thing for the job? And I think the answer is yes. Because why? What is the purpose of him summoning a weaker clone? It's the most efficient way of him stopping these people from pursuing him, and he's not playing around with them anymore. If he was playing around, it would make sense he summons a weaker clone. He's not trying to sort of like engage in this sort of thing anymore. But now he doesn't want to fight them anymore. It makes more sense that he puts in this countermeasure to stop them from pursuing him, so he can do whatever else he wants to do. Right? I think that makes the most sense.
Bro, okay, so when you say strongest clone, can you elaborate on that? I didn't know Doma can like vary the strength of his clones.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a sort of abductive case, right? I mean, like we see that there's like an ability to vary the strength of your blood demon art. Like for example, refer to like Rui in the mountain when she's fighting against Tanjiro. She's able to go from like the white strings to like the red strings, for example, the red threads, whatever you want to call it. So seemingly there's this sort of ability to vary the potency of your blood demon art. You can
Okay,
also
we can stop there,
so
bro. Like, we can stop there, bro. Like, I don't see why that would apply to Doma because when Rui does that, like that's a completely separate move. Like it's like, I forgot what he calls it, but that's a move that is particular to Rui's moveset, bro. Like
yeah, I
I
mean
don't see like
that's
you have to justify why that applies to Doma. And number
yeah. So
two, I mean, when you
yeah,
say that like people can vary, actually, yeah, I don't even think like people can vary like the strength of their like whatchamacallit.
the blood demon art.
I don't think they can vary the strength of their blood demon or without using like a specific move, bro.
Okay,
Like
so
I don't
wait, just to be clear. So you take the position that people cannot vary the strength of their blood demon art unless they're using a particular move, correct?
Yeah, I think there's moves that are particularly stronger than the other. Like for example, the example you brought up with Rui, like where he like implants like blood into his strings, like that's a specific move that is particular to Rui. Um, which is what I mean by it has to be a particular move. Like that can be stronger than like other certain applications of their blood demon art. But I don't think it's something that they can just like intuitively like adjust the strength. And I like you would also have to justify that like Doma can do it to like specifically the clones as well.
Okay, wait. So I'm not even opposed to this sort of view. Let's take this view on board, right? So he only has particular moves, and particular moves are stronger than other moves. Fine. He uses a move that's relative in strength to him. You agree?
It's relative in strength to him.
Yeah, stated.
I mean I don't see why that's
It's
actually we can grant that.
stated. It's stated, right? He makes a clone that can use techniques almost as powerful as his. So that clone is relative to him. Yes or no?
Yeah, we can grant that, sure.
Okay. And
I,
presumably he wants to
I
stop
like
these
to I
people
like
from.
to clarify that the clone is like definitively and reliably weaker than himself.
Sorry.
Yeah, I said I'd like to clarify that the clone is definitively and reliably weaker than himself.
Okay, that's fine. I don't care about that. Okay, that's fine. Okay, then Dome wants to stop these people from pursuing him, correct?
Yeah, Doma's trying to keep him occupied. Well, I don't even think that's the case. Like I'm pretty sure he states that it's sufficient enough to kill them.
I mean, you can find that for me. Oh shit, niggas on God, bro.
What just happened?
We waited for him to get scans. What's going
Yeah,
on?
right here he says the rest is up to him. I'm pretty sure the rest entails winning the battle. And in the second panel he says like just a bit more. I think that provides credence. Like just a bit more for them to win the fight. And winning the fight includes like killing Inosuke and Kanao, in which he tries to leave. Just leave it to them.
I think he believes that the children can kill them. That's fine.
And also he states that he can
But
just summon or just kill everybody else.
yeah, then the point is that does he choose the most efficient method of doing so?
I don't see why that's relevant.
It is relevant, right? Because if he's
It's
not playing
relevant.
around with them,
Bro,
if he's
it's
not
relevant
no,
whether or not you choose the most efficient way. Like, can you
yes,
just
yes, because if he chooses an inefficient way, that why does he keep talking over me? Look, if he chooses an inefficient way, that would invite more questions. Like, why is he choosing an inefficient way? If he's holding back, it makes sense why he chooses an inefficient way. He wants the fight to be longer. But if he wants the fight to be cut short because he wants to do something else, why would he choose an inefficient way? It seems like it's more what's it like given the context, it's better explained by him choosing the most efficient way of killing these people, right?
Okay, so, bro. Actually, I could probably grant this, bro. Like, I think the most efficient way for him to kill Inosuke and Kanao without being there would entail him summoning the clones. So I don't see the issue. Like, he saw this as sufficient enough to kill like he saw this as sufficient enough to kill Inosuke and Kanao. So I don't see why he can't do this as the most efficient way.
Yeah, but like what I'm trying to get to is that he doesn't have the ability to just like destroy these guys either. There is some sort of physical comparability. We see with like certain upper moons that have like a certain level of physical ability above other Hashira, like refer to say Kokushiba versus Mirichiro, they just destroy the Hashira that they fight. Right? They just beat them up. There's no contest. They can just do that. That's what they do naturally. I'm saying we don't see this happen in the case of Doma versus Shinobu and Inosuke. So Doma decides to stop playing around with them. But instead of like say, using some technique that just cuts them both up or something, or like blitzing them, he doesn't do any of this. He summons a clone instead that can use techniques almost as powerful as he can, and then has them engage with those instead. Right. And even like what he says, where he says, oh, just a bit more, in response to what's his face? Kanayo saying, oh, just a bit more, hang in there. He's like, oh, the divine children recalled the battle, almost like saying like this is not something that he can like sit around and watch. Like even with summoning this person that's almost as strong as him, he still can't sit around and see the result. It's not something that will happen quickly. It's not something that he can just see, oh yeah, it's going to be done now that I've done this, it's going to be done, which implies that there is some sort of physical comparability between the two.
Okay, bro, I think that helps the view because like I'm literally positing that like bro, obviously the situation entails that Doma cannot physically be there anymore. Like he has to leave like essentially immediately, right? So therefore, like we're talking about efficiency in which he cannot be there while also killing Inosuke and Kano, which I think entails the clones. And number two, I think you're confusing speed with efficiency. Like efficiency isn't just getting the job done as fast as possible. Like efficiency also implies that you're putting the least amount in while getting the most amount out, right? So if we already understand that using your blood demon art like it requires stamina and it requires power from demons, yes.
Wait, so let me just get clear on like two things. Like the first thing is, I don't
Yeah,
think it would help the point.
that's-
I don't think it would help the point at all. Because what I'm basically saying is that I don't see why Doma wouldn't just use his own technique, which is stronger, to just beat these guys immediately. And then you brought up how, oh well, I'm confusing efficiency because it also relates to like how much energy you expend or something. But presumably,
Yeah, it's essentially putting in the least amount while getting the most
yeah,
amount out, right?
yeah. So presumably he's spending more energy because who's sustaining the clone? Him. Who's sustaining and providing the energy for all of the techniques that the clone uses? Him. He's giving the energy to this clone independently of himself, as opposed to him like using his own physicals and coming in close and cutting both their heads off or something, which I don't think he can do. Or him, using his blood demon art, using a more powerful attack to end the fight, whatever. I don't think he can do that either, because there is some comparability there. To deny that there's comparability there is ridiculous, right? Is my point. And so even on the front of efficiency, you're still losing because this seems inefficient. It seems less efficient than him going and doing the job himself, because now he's summoning this other clone, which is going to be passively expending his energy as he goes to help Muzan.
Okay, so would you agree that blood demon arts it requires stamina and energy, correct?
I agree, yeah.
Okay, so would you agree that stronger usages or stronger applications of your blood demon art implies that you're using more energy than weaker applications?
Uh, like given one usage, yeah. Like if you use a weak demon art multiple times, comparable to a strong one once, it might be comparable in terms of energy expenditure. But like given you've used them
Yeah,
both once,
I think that's pretty contextual and like kind of trivial to the question. Like I'm
yeah.
just
So I was
asking.
just answering the question, being more specific as to the bounds of the question. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're agreeing that if it's going to be the case that using a stronger technique is going to expend more energy than using a weaker technique, and you already agreed that, or you already stated that you don't think Doma is going to be able to just like blitz and cut their heads off, then it's just simply going to be the case. I'm confused how you're coming to the conclusion that the clone is going to be less efficient, or you're making any sort of like you're making any sort of claim towards the efficiency um of using the clone versus like doing it himself, because you already stated that he can't just blitz and cut their heads off. So you're already claiming that it's going to take like some amount of effort and some amount of time while he's using these said stronger techniques. So I'm a bit confused how you're coming to the conclusion that it's going to be more efficient.
Yeah, so like presumably what you want to demonstrate is that Doma is significantly above Inosuke and Kanao, correct? This is like the last time I repeat this point, by the way. So I have other stuff to do. But that's presumably what you want to demonstrate. Like he's significantly above these guys.
Conclusions like after you give this point then.
Yeah, so do you agree or disagree that what you're trying to demonstrate is that Doma is significantly above Inosuke and Kanao?
Um, I wouldn't specifically say significantly. I would just say like relevantly to the degree where it's not like the same as Shinobu.
Well, that's vague. I don't think anything you've sent shows that it's this extent where it's not the same as Shinobu. Like I don't know how you can demonstrate that. But look, that's besides the
Okay,
point.
so okay, I'll just clarify. Like when we say like Kanao and Inosuke is significantly weaker, I'll agree if all that means is that Kanao and Inosuke are just going to be notably weaker than Doma, in such a way that it's not as comparable to Shinobu.
Yeah, I don't know how you demonstrated that with the panels, is what I'm saying.
Okay, the panels weren't in reference to that. It was just in reference to whether or not Doma was trying.
Yeah, I already granted that Doma can be above these guys. I don't really care. So whether they're relatively above or not. Right. But look, I'll just get to the point that I was making. Look, the point that I'm just making here is that when Doma summons this clone is relative to him, right? Just to be clear. So he's summoning a clone that's relative to him. He can use techniques that are almost as powerful as him. So the energy expenditure from the clone's techniques are the same as the energy expenditure from his own techniques, right? Or relatively the same, like they're comparable, okay? And he also add in the fact that he has to summon the clones, right? So he summons these clones as well, and they're using these techniques. So there's an additional energy cost. And I'm saying, let's just compare this to the energy cost that would be needed if he could just walk up and slice their heads off, right? Like the way Kokushiba does to Muichiro, which is a significant stat cliff, for example, right? And the energy cost would seem to be much less. Once again, he's not using a blood demon art, for example. And if the stat cliff is significant, then it should be something he's able to do. But it's actually implied the opposite. It's implied that he doesn't have the time to sit around and watch. The fight will be prolonged. You know, it's something that will be recorded. Like all of these things are interesting. Like it's implied that you know, the fight will last long enough for it to be something that he can watch afterwards, something recorded, something he can't sit around and watch on his own. Like it's not going to be something that ends quickly. So even with summoning someone that's relative to him, there's still a fight to be had. So it seems like, yeah, sure. Let's even like the first one was it seems like this is not more efficient. It's the same. It's like equal efficiency in terms of energy expenditure. Perhaps the reason as to why he uses it is because he's not capable of beating these guys in a quicker way. This is the only quickest way that he can use to beat them. He can't speed blitz them. He can't use a more powerful attack against them, etc., etc. Like I want you to also note that these clones probably act autonomously, right? Like he doesn't have to command them what to, on how to attack or what to do. They probably act autonomously. That's based on the fact that we see his internal monologue when he's watching the clones fight, and there's no like commands or directives given to them. And so every technique that the clones use are based on their own analysis of what's going on. It's just like, bro, like I don't know if this is clear, but I'll just summarize it by saying this. It's like him summoning this clone that's almost as strong as him, right? At least to me, seems to imply that because he can't be there actively, he's gonna summon somebody that's almost as strong as him who's gonna engage them anyway, right? Uh, and I feel like he could just, if he could have used a weaker technique to dispatch them, he would have. But essentially, it's like he's summoning a clone of himself to do the job for him. That doesn't imply that like they're significantly below him, which is what I think you would have to demonstrate to get your point across the ground. But I mean, I'm fine with concluding because what the heck, bro? This has been like this bad.
I think you contradict yourself like badly. You were just claiming that it was inefficient. Now you're saying it's the same efficiency. But yeah, we can conclude.
Uh,
Are
Sorry,
you
we can conclude. I don't. If you think that was a contradiction, I mean, you just weren't listening. But look, in conclusion, he tries to argue that what Shinobu is was able to blitz Doma. I said, is Doma holding back? He said no. We talked about whether Doma is holding back. He said the reason why Doma is holding back against Inosuke and Kano is because he thinks they're weaker than him. I was like, okay, but your chain, right? Like I gave the reason for Kano. So I explained that what's it called? Kano is able to do something in combat that Shinobi couldn't do. And Doma says that she's more talented than the harsh rate she was fought. And obviously this talent is combat relevant. And then he tried to pivot his definition of strength towards physicals, but then I explained that there are many different things that tie into physicality. And so it's not obvious why Shinobi has a greater physicality than what's his face? Than Kano, right? Because well, physicality entails things like strength, speed, stamina, constitution, healing, that sort of thing. Kano wins on like most of those factors. The only factors he might lose on is speed. So it's like even on that front, it seems a bit crazy to say that you know, that's what they're referring to when they talk about being stronger or being weaker. So yeah, I think on that front, I pretty much showed why even though Shinobi was able to tag the guy, Doma probably isn't going all out against her. All of the reasons for him not going all out seem to be present there. In terms of like the perception of being weaker and stuff like that. I'm not even sure what reasons he gave for him going all out, to be honest. I think he said something like he makes a statement about holding back towards Inosuke and Kano, but doesn't make the statement towards Shinobu. Was like he doesn't have to. The contexts are different. Like against Inosuke and Kano, he says this because he has to stop holding back. So it's like a change in his fighting style. He doesn't have to stop holding back against Shinobu because he just gets eaten alive. So I think overall, yeah, man, it's pretty much shit, bro. Give you a conclusion as well.
All right. Yeah, so when I was giving my argument, I obviously stipulated that when we're scaling these characters, at least relative to Mitsuri, all I said was that Shinobu just has to fulfill being at least relative to Doma because I was positing that Doma was above Mitsuri. And then when it came to the case of like Kana and Inosuke and Shinobu, he gave a lot of contentions. Like I won't say he was avoiding the point, but I don't think any of his contentions were sufficient enough. And if they were sufficient enough, he contradicted himself on multiple ends. And yeah,
Yeah, good stuff, man. I'm gonna save the recording.
I
Okay,
think
C, let's debate fiction.
he didn't give any relevant contention that was sufficient enough.